This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady. Welcome to the show, everybody. Whether you're listening online or anywhere on any platform, thank you for joining us today. We're on the East Coast as usual in South Carolina, and I have a guest as usual. So if you're struggling with your finances, I know the pandemic hit everyone pretty hard, but if you were ready, kudos to you. If you weren't ready, is another day to start moving forward with your finances. Check out dakotagrady.com for information about your finances and also about your business. If you need help with accounting and taxes for your practitioner business, if you're a nurse practitioner or any kind of business, contact me at info@theatdoc.com. That's the info at the@doc.com. So today I have Patrina Dixon of It's My Money. She's also a personal finance expert. I think she's in upstate of Maryland. Is that right?
No, I'm in Connecticut.
You're in Connecticut. Oh, all right. So yeah, I wanted to have her on the show today. She has a podcast as well called The Money Exchange. So I want to talk about that a little bit. But without further ado, Patrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dakota. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and share some tips with your listeners.
Yes, ma'am. So tell everybody about who you are and what you do, Patrina.
Absolutely. So my name is Patrina Dixon. Across social media, I'm known as the It's My Money lady. As you see on my shirt, as you see behind me, It's My Money is my trademark brand. So yes, I do own it in a personal finance space. And it's also the name of a couple books that I authored on the topic as well. So being a personal finance coach, I am very blessed to have the opportunity to teach people how to manage their money in group settings that my clients, which are businesses, schools, universities, pay me to come into the rooms to teach their folks. But sometimes people can't be in those rooms and I can't be everywhere. So although I've taught personal finance across the world, I've gone as far as Trinidad and Tobago, in person in Africa virtually, I still can't be in every room. So with that, I have courses that are available online. I have on-demand courses. I have a podcast, which again is something free that a person can listen into and learn how to manage their money. And I also have a blog, so people can also go in and read and learn and get tips on how to better manage their money. Because my overall mission is to ensure that people are more financially astute and make decisions financially based on sound information that they have. So if you can be in a room with me, great, that's the best way. But if you can't, you can listen to the tips I share and guests I bring on, like Dakota, or you can also read it via the blog.
Awesome. So how'd you get into all this stuff? Like you said, you got the blog, you got the podcast. Like, how'd you get involved with personal finance?
So first of all, I love what I do, right? So it doesn't seem like a lot to me. It just seems like what's the next way that I can share with others? So I love doing it. It's not work. I'm always wonderfully appreciative when people like you invite me on their show so I can broaden the audience. So for me personally, my finances were jacked up. Like really bad. And it wasn't because I didn't make money. It wasn't because I didn't have a desire for them to be better. I just didn't know how. I thought I was doing well. I had a good job. I was climbing the corporate ladder. I made really good money. I lived in a very affluent neighborhood. I owned my own home. I had a car. I paid for my daughter to go to a really good school. So I thought I was doing well, but I was one paycheck from my company not depositing it into my direct deposit or to my account as via direct deposit of everything blowing up. It was, I was dependent on each of those checks to drop in order for me to do what I was doing every day. And even that, it wasn't even a very, very tight Band-Aid. It was a very loosely Band-Aid that was making everything happen, but it looked good. It felt good while doing it. And as I started to, have water cooler conversations, and I started to hear my daughter ask me certain questions about things, realizing she only saw me doing everything. She didn't understand how it was being done. I'm like, So it's a famous quote, and that quote is, when you make an observation, you have an obligation. And I observed that I had no money saved. I literally no money saved. And when I say no money, I'm saying $200-$300. And then I put that in and then I take it right back out. I had no investments. I guess one can say my home that I owned and lived in for quite a long time was an investment, but it wasn't the investment in the way that I invest today in addition to having a home. So my personal situation and knowing there was so many more like me made me first want to get my stuff right. So then I started watching and following and executing on some of the things that the financial gurus, I'll say before me, because I'm here now, so you guys know me, so I don't need to tell you who they were. But I did follow those steps. I watched them. They obviously knew a little bit more than they knew a lot more than I did. And I started to do those things and my money started to change. And that upward trajectory of my financial understanding, my financial acumen, all of that transformed my life. So that's why I got started doing what I do. And like I said, because I know everybody can't pay to be in a room with me or to work with me, I made the other channels available. So if you really want to make the change, you have ways that you can do that.
No excuses, huh?
No excuses. No excuses.
Wow. So what was it feeling like for you to know you had no savings really? If something would have taken that Band-Aid off, what would have been that one thing that you would say would have unraveled everything?
Well, first of all, I guess I'll first say I didn't realize that I was living like that until I really stepped back and looked at it. It was just like I pay my mortgage, I pay my car payment. My daughter and I was able to go out to eat for the weekend. You know, when the weekend get paid, you go out to eat. You don't make dinner at home. I was doing it, so it felt fine. I didn't even think about what if something happened. That's part of the problem. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about I am covering to the best of my ability everything that I need to do. We live in a nice neighborhood, we drive in a decent car, and all that. So until I started following folks, I'm like, emergency fund, like what? I'm again not thinking about that. Even like people bring up, you never thought about if you got a flat tire or whatever. I'm like, I have car insurance, I have AAA. Like I had the answer for everything, right? So I, in retrospect, I didn't think about it. That was the answer to that, right? Once I learned about the fact that I needed to have that, that's when I began to have what I call delayed gratification. So every weekend that I got paid, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, my daughter and I ate out. I was a single parent at the time, and we ate out. Like that was just it. When I started to have delayed gratification, it was sometimes we didn't even want to go out. We were tired. I just thought that was a good thing to do. I got paid. We don't have to have the same food at home and I needed to make it. I'm tired. I'm going to just eat out. It was just like that saved money, and going out to eat all 3 days became what I started to put in now, maybe define. I used to define it as emergency savings, but now a freedom fund, or, there's a lot of different terms for it. That's how I started to find the money. The secondly, like I was an extreme gourmet coffee drinker, right? Like that was my thing. 4 times a day, I went and had coffee 7 days a week, not 5 days a week, work week, 7 days. So my daughter played basketball, she played volleyball, she ran track. So it was we were always going, right? So it was that kind of stuff, like not drinking coffee out, maybe 1 cup when we're out and about going, but the rest drink at home. Going to the grocery store, getting the Gatorade for the games, as opposed to buying them at the stand for triple the amount that was there. So those were the little minor tweaks that I made that started contributing to me paying down debt and putting money in savings. The point was I didn't even think about the fact that I didn't have any saved. When I say any, I wasn't at zero, but I wasn't like, if something happened, I had even a month's worth of expenses. And the second thing is I started budgeting. Like I started literally writing down what I made and writing down what I needed to spend out. Before it was just knowing it conceptually, okay, I got to pay the lights, I got to pay the gas out of this paycheck, and just kind of doing it. It wasn't like sitting down and see, okay, is this the week or the pay week that I can do more, or do I need to do less because I got to pay all of the, several bills out of this paycheck, or should I wait to the next biweekly check? So it was, again, learning strategies. And one of the strategies was sitting down with your money, planning your money out. And it's called the B word that people don't like. It's called budgeting. It really is called that. And if you don't like that word, I tell my clients, call it spending plan, call it money meeting, call it whatever you want. Just do the activity, because it does make a difference.
Exactly. Having that money plan, what I call a money plan, it's important because you see where your money is going as just a high view of your money. And then you look down on it and say, all right, what we're going to do this month, but it has to be paid. But if you don't have that plan, it's all in your head, it's easy to miss something, right?
Yeah. It's
Like,
easy to miss something, and it's easy to spend and not realizing that it's all gone by Monday. You know what I mean? So, when you sit down and plan, even if you were to go out to eat still, okay, maybe I can't have the lobster, maybe I'll have the chicken. You know what I mean? Like, you have it. So people think budgeting is restrictive. Budgeting is empowering. It's not restrictive. So it's you make it restrictive when you don't do it, and now you have what I call regretful Mondays because you splurged for the weekend. But if you sit down with your paycheck on a Friday, if that's the day you get paid, and you plan out where you're going to do, you're like, okay, I have this amount left. Okay, do I treat the kids out for ice cream instead of the steak, and then go to steak next week? Because as long as you, which I do encourage, do not put a line item for things you enjoy, because then you really will not sustain the budgeting process. So if you enjoy a treat with your family, maybe the budgeting will empower you to know what that treat can be for that particular weekend. Maybe it's ice cream. Maybe it's just going to the park, not buying anything, bringing something from the refrigerator because they don't get to go to the park. Maybe, you start to find creative ways of how to enjoy this journey we're on called life. And it doesn't always have to cost anything.
One thing you mentioned about living in a nice neighborhood and having the facade, everything's good. According to CareerBird, 78% of people struggle financially. Mm-hmm. And they may live in the nice neighborhoods. I actually met with a guy that had a 3-story house, wife stayed at home with kids. He had a business. I met with them, they were struggling. Talk about that facade people are seeing and people you talk to at the water cooler or in your meetings. Talk about that part of it.
Yeah, it really is just that. It's the term they call living like the Joneses. You don't know that the Joneses is a paycheck from everything blowing up. And I'm raising my hand. I told you that was me. So I'm not telling you because it's a quote that I've seen or I've read or like what you just quoted. I'm telling you because that was my real life. It was my real life. I am, again, blessed, fortunate, humbled that I didn't find myself out in the street or anything like that. But I was jacked up. And credit to me meant I went to the mall, I filled out the application, and it gave me the credit card. It wasn't what interest rate it was going to be that I need to pay back this $40 shirt that I end up paying $100 for because I paid it late and all this other stuff. Like, I didn't have the financial knowledge, which is why I do what I do. So I guess this is what I will say to those watching, those listening. Sometimes, folks, not everybody, but sometimes those that live in the nice neighborhoods with the nice vehicles are a paycheck from all of that stuff being taken away. Unless they own that home outright, so meaning don't have any mortgage left, own that car, no payments, somebody can come and drive away with that car while they're sleeping. So don't think about that. I say this as well. Personal finance is personal. Meaning Dakota and I are both, we help people with their personal finance tips, strategies. He does taxes, etc. Each of our clients, even if they work at the same employer, they make the same amount of money, what they need to spend money on may be different. So you cannot compare yourself to the next. You cannot compare yourself to the Joneses, to your coworker, to your neighbor. You have to just take a hold of your own personal finance and manage them accordingly. And that's all I can say about that, because the big home and a nice car, people are affording that. Don't get me wrong. People are doing it. They have money saved. Some people have paid off the mortgage of that nice house. That is definitely doable. But if that's not your situation, it's okay. It's okay. That's why you have people like us to help you get to that place if that's your goal, because not everybody has a goal of paying off their mortgage. Not everybody doesn't even have a goal to even own a home. So whatever your goal is, stay focused on that and then execute on an upward trajectory in the direction you want to go, whatever that is.
So you mentioned you speak at universities. Talk about that. Do children more receptive to money talks opposed to compared to adults? Talk about that dynamic.
Yeah, so I think I would say for me, at least, the audiences that I have been in front of, both I'll call them children in high school, because I've done high school, young adults in college, and then more mature adults, all of them are receptive. I haven't had a rejection to the information. What I have had is people don't want to pay after they leave out of that room for the next thing. course, book, whatever have you. So I think free people love, and if that's the way you want to get it, because we all can, go on YouTube and DIY it, right? But then sometimes we have more parts left, right? And we didn't use everything. So you need somebody to coach you through. So I'm not the coach that says you can only get to the better place by working with me. Like, I'm not that coach. I'm like, you can get to a better place if you execute on getting to a better place with tips and strategies. How you get them, there's many ways. I even offer many ways. I have free resources. So college students specifically, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because I'm actually focusing more on that, more on young people that are in college, is for me, a lot of them, because personal finance is not consistently taught in high schools. And what I mean by consistently, meaning there's certain schools that do teach it. There's certain schools that make it as an elective. There's certain schools that have requirements. There's certain states that have made it required. There's certain states that they have just passed the legislation and it will be required. So that means inconsistent, right? So some high school students go into college without getting this information. There's a lot that don't. So it's a more attractive audience to me, because it's the exact people who make financial, or it's a segment of people that make financial decisions without having a lot of information, without seeing a lot of positive financial transactions within the home that they were in before they went to college. So they're now young adults, old enough to sign, their name on a dotted line, will be candidates or looked upon as vulnerable candidates for credit cards and things of that nature. That's the audience that I want. I'm not telling you not to do what you prefer to do. I'm trying to make sure you have, education on how best to do that. So whatever decisions you make, one, the consequence that can come from it, and ways to potentially do it differently, as opposed to not having the information. So that's my goal with colleges. If you are an administrator at a college or university, I am so looking forward to the opportunity to work with more college students, especially first year. So first year or last year, because you got first year coming in, making decisions, last year, about to go out and potentially getting their first career job or starting their own business. So that's my interest. But any level of the college years, I'm very interested in getting in front of that population, and sharing with them how they could potentially do it differently than, some of us before them.
So you also speak internationally. You mentioned that. Talk about the difference between being in America and then going to a country, I guess maybe
Trinidad.
Trinidad, like maybe lower income areas. Talk about that.
Yeah, so one, I went in person to Trinidad several years. I have an annual relationship with them. Obviously, due to COVID, we had to do it virtually. I've also taught virtually to colleges in Africa. So physically going to Trinidad was a wonderful experience for me. I don't like to, this is what I will say about the area, right? Because we do have some underserved, I'll call it, areas within the United States as well. And I've taught in those areas, but it was different for me in this regard, because they too welcomed the information, which is why we now have It's My Money has an annual relationship with the school that I teach in. And I would say what was different was for me in teaching is a couple of things. Their credit system is different. What they call money is different. So, we say dollar and then dollars, like there's plural to it. With them, TT is TT. It's not TTs, like with the S. So I remember one of the young students is like, ma'am, it's just TT. It's not TT. So it was like learning that lingo was what I would say was, I don't want to say the biggest challenge. It was a challenge that my team and I had to make sure that we work through. The other thing is, so the credit, the way they access credit is different there. A lot of them, almost all of them, were interested in having their own business, which was really good. So I incorporated an entrepreneurship session for them as well. So I would say that's the difference. The difference, it was when I went for the first time, that was my first time being in Trinidad, understanding the culture and making sure, because I find my differentiator is that I'm me, right? And me is I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, and I'm very cognizant of the room that I'm in. So if people aren't engaged, I engage them. In order to do that, I always have to do my homework on where I'm going. So I like getting immersed in the culture at where I am if I'm going somewhere physically, and if it's virtually, doing my research so that I can bring in a term. So for example, they're really big on eating coconut right out of the coconut, like, like literally putting the straw in and eating that. Like that's a big thing. Doubles is a big thing there. And, bacon shark, like all of those things. So I understood that. And anytime I would talk, and mention those things or showing a picture of me doing that. So that immediately like, oh, miss, you did that. So again, that I needed to get them warmed up, if you will, so that I can begin to make them even more interested in the information that I had to share. So yeah, so that's, I would call my, part of my secret sauce is immersing myself when I'm going somewhere physically. I'm doing research when I'm going to be somewhere virtually. So actually researching in both situations, and then ensuring that I'm being very relevant to the specific audience that I'm in front of. Because budgeting is budgeting, saving is saving, credit is credit. It's about, again, tweaking how I bring forth that information based on the audience.
Understand. It makes sense. Yeah, you have to know the culture, the people you're talking to, in order to relate to them.
That's right.
Right. So talk about your book real quick. It's My Money. Maybe give 2 or 3 tips out of it that you can help your audience.
Yeah. So Dakota, thank you so much for having me on. It's My Money. Oh, it's my trademark brand. It's my baby. I'm the founder and CEO. It's also, I'm going to move over. It's also the name of my book. You can see back there. It's a 3-part series. Volume 1 is for ages 13 to 18. Volume 2 is for ages 19 to 25. Volume 3 is not out yet. But here's what I'll say about Volume 2. Volume 2 is applicable to anybody that is not managing their finance. I wrote it for that intended audience of 19 to 25. But again, if you're 35 and you haven't started, you can use this book as well. So tips I will say in it, you will get what I call the financial fundamentals. You're not going to get a lot on investing in this, although that's a topic in there. This is about making sure that you have the foundation for your finances. So when you start to make all that money and invest and bring in a lot, the house will not fall down. That's what the book will help you with, financial fundamentals and how you can get started while you're reading the book. It is written in journal format. So there's pages for you to write your own action steps. Because remember, personal finance is personal. It also has a glossary in the back. It has many resources. It can be found on my website, which is itsmymoney.info. It also can be found on Amazon. So wherever you purchase your books, you can get them. Oh, it's on walmart.com as well. I forgot about that. That's new. So yeah, my website is itsmymoney.info, not .com. Itsmymoney.info. So that's where you can find the book if you go to the shop. That's also, if you go to the resource page, you can find a free budget sheet, a free debt tracker, a free money checklist, as well as a free coloring book for the kiddos. So itsmymoney.info. Resources will give you the free information. Shop, you can grab my book.
Awesome. So your budget tip, that's one. Give us one more, you would think, for somebody getting out of college. Because when I was in high school, I didn't learn about how to write. I didn't know how to write a check when I got out of school. Like, that was how bad it was.
That's in the book. That's in the book. It's how to write a check. That's in the book. People still, check writing is still an important thing. You may not have to do it very frequently, but you should know how. You should know that you can't use pencil or red pen. Like, all of that's in there. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's all good. So yeah, that's another tip, maybe. But give the audience one more tip before we close. Like, budgeting is one thing. One more tip that you can help people who maybe starting out, get out of college. What could you help them with? One tip.
The next thing I will say is pay yourself first. So I talked about debt. I talked about I didn't have a savings. Pay yourself first. It doesn't have to be a set. It should be a set dollar amount. And if you aren't doing it today, I encourage you to start small. Start even $5 even, because the goal is to sustain that amount, not do like I did, which is put 200 in every paycheck, and then by Monday I'm taking 100 out. That's not what you want to do. You want to start small, go through 3 or 4 paychecks, and if that's not blowing your budget, then make it go to 20, make it then go to 50. So you want to go upward, you want to automate it and forget about it. So pay yourself first, regardless. Let me say this again, regardless of your debt situation, because life happens. And when life happens, you have to take care of it. So you have to pay yourself first. Start small. If you can automate it, your employer allows for different accounts for money to go directly in. If you are, you can put that account number there and be done with it into a savings account, not a checking account. And then if you don't work for an employer, you work for yourself, then it is a manual task and you just have to do it. So you are the only person that can change your finances in the upward trajectory and know that it's possible. And how do I know that? Because I was potentially where you are, and I'm at a different place today. And if you need help, Dakota and I are here.
Awesome. So, Patrina, before we close, how can people find out about you online? What are your book and everything else, the podcast as well?
Sure, absolutely. So my website is itsmymoney.info across all social media. So that's Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok. You can find me, and I'm on, I said TikTok, right? What's that other one? I can't think of it, but across all social media, it's at itsmymoney_. So that's itsmymoney_. So I'm across all social platforms that way. Again, I put free tips there as well. My podcast is called The Money Exchange. That is across all audio platforms. If you have Apple, go check that one out. I need some ratings there, as well as Spotify. And then also I have a YouTube channel. That one is It's My Money with Patrina Dixon. And Dakota was one of my guests, so our conversation will be there as well.
Awesome. Well, this is the Your Money Hour podcast. And Patrina, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.